another semester. Hopefully it starts better than today did. Welcome back. Hope you all had a happy holiday and got some rest as well and are ready for another semester. I have a few announcements I'd like to share with some activities that are happening now and over the next year, and then we'll get started with the workshop. First of all, January 19th, it's a Friday, unfortunately, but it is on the 19th, the president of ACCJC and the chair of the commissioners will be visiting our campus. So it's a really great opportunity for us to meet these two people. The president of ACCJC is our liaison with ACCJC. So anytime we submit reports or have visits or whatever, he is the person that we have contact with to help us through the accreditation processes. So we will be holding a all-campus meeting on that day, probably late in the afternoon, because they arrive Friday and leave Saturday. So make a note on your calendars that sometime on the afternoon of the 19th, we'll be having a meeting with those two people. Another reason that that meeting is really important for us is because this is the year we're going to be writing our midterm report. So I'm now the accreditation liaison officer. So I'll be heading up the organization of that report. It'll be due in by December of this year, but we'll try to get most of the writing done this spring. We've got a good start on the report already because we had to do a follow-up report after we did our self-evaluation back in 2016. So we've done a report since our self-evaluation. So we answered all the recommendations from that report, but we need to address all of our own actionable improvement plans and quality focus essays. So that's basically what's left. We'll be asking you to read sections of the report to validate the information that goes in and possibly to be part of our writing team. So that's coming up. There's also an annual report that goes in April, but that's usually very minimal, mostly numbers. And then, if you haven't heard, we have a Bachelor's of Science in Elementary Education that was approved, and that program will start fall of 2019. It also means a little bit more work for us because we have to submit an implementation report, also due in December, and ACCJC will be sending a team to visit us to see how well we do that program. So it's a bit of a busy year for accreditation, and I have new directions from the president to also look at possibly moving to Lost Senior and implementing a second bachelor's program in business. So that's probably at least 3 to 5 years of work for accreditation. So, lots of work going on in that area. So when those people come on the 19th, it's a chance for you to ask questions, to find out current trends in accreditation and what's happening with our current accrediting body, ACCJC. Some other projects that Instructional Affairs is working on is looking at the math developmental sequence, because we have 3 semesters of developmental math, which is not a best practice anymore. We're working on some transition math courses with Plum Bay State Department of Education. We're doing some piloting in with at the high school and possibly here, this campus with MS-99, see if we can figure out what to do with our developmental math and get it shortened down or even moved to the high school with a transition math course. So that's another project we're working on. I know there's a lot of things going on in the areas, but that's what I have for now. And today we have a workshop on program alignment and course outline writing because we desperately need to get our course outlines updated. All of them except for the education division are now over 5 years old, which is out of our policy. So we're not in compliance with accreditation at this point. So it's critical that we get the course outlines done. The education division did this in preparation for the bachelor's program. And it was intense for them because they had a short timeline. But they were able to do it, and they're here today to help facilitate the process on getting everyone else started. So I'll be talking about their process and how each of the other programs can do something similar. Then tomorrow we have another day of workshops. We're looking at track data and program assessment summaries. And hopefully you'll see how the format for the course outlines feeds into track data and assessment. They're really totally connected, and so you don't have to do work twice, 3 times, 4 times. Whatever information you're collecting in the course should feed up to program level and to the institution level for assessing learning outcomes. With that, I think we should get started. Okay, so for today we have 2 learning outcomes that hopefully we can achieve. And one is to review and revise alignment of course learning outcomes to program learning outcomes to institution level outcomes. So there's a connection all the way from the course to the institution. We have 8 institutional learning outcomes, and every program has to meet those 8 learning outcomes because that's what we promise the public, that when a student graduates from here, they'll be able to do those 8 things. Okay, and same for the program. We promise a student that when they finish the program, they'll be able to do whatever the program learning outcomes. But they have to be in alignment, and we need to be intentional about how we write a course outline, how those course outlines fit into the program, and how the program fits into the institution. The second thing is, because I've allowed a lot of time to actually work on a course outline today, is that you'll be able to mostly complete at least 1 course outline for your program by the end of today. If not completed it, you will know how to do it. So make sure you have asked all your questions today. Before we proceed, I have a question I'm going to put up on the screen. And if you know the answer to the question, raise your hand, be really quick about it, because I have for you a coffee mug. Okay? So, are you ready? If you know the answer, raise your hand. So roosters do not lay eggs, so there's not going to be any chickens out of that. So congratulations, Sue. Okay, I have other questions later, so if you didn't get that one, I have more prizes. Okay. So first of all, why would we want to look at alignment of courses to program to institution? Even within the course, you want to look at how you're designing that course so that students have opportunities to learn the learning outcomes of that course. Maybe probably more than one opportunity within the course. So the assignments that you put together, the assessments that you put together, the readings, everything should be intentional. And that's one benefit of taking time to look at this. It's an opportunity for you all to put into a course what you really want the students to learn. You're in charge. It gives you the power to put into that course what you want the students to learn. It should help you feel satisfied with that process, because then you know that you've done your best to help the students meet their full potential and to learn in that program. And that's the reason we're going to work on this today and have some discussions about it. If you're looking at a course, you might just do a simple grid like this where you have your course learning outcomes across the top and your assignments, what you're going to do in class 1, class 2, all the way to class whatever, 32 or 48, whatever it is. What assignments you have and what assessments you have. Because when you check all these off, and you might see that maybe you focus on learning outcome 1 and 3 and 4 a lot, but you hardly address outcome 2. Or maybe you're not addressing outcome 5. Maybe students only get one opportunity to look at outcome 5. And you didn't know that until you actually do a check to see what your assignments and assessments have, what you've organized or what we've designed in that course. So this is just a visual chart that helps you look at that. So like I said, some things you might see that you forgot to address an outcome, or you do not have a learning activity associated with an outcome. You might have done a class on it, but there's no assignment or an opportunity for students to practice and actually learn that outcome. You might see uneven patterns, as I mentioned before, or you might see that you often find that you address more than one outcome at a time. So there's integration across the course. And that's actually a benefit, that you connect outcomes together. You address more than one at a time. So after you've designed a course like that, then you can look at how all of the courses fit into a program. Maybe back in 2010 or 2011, everyone did program matrices to see how the courses fit into a program, because we were doing that with assessment then. So I pulled one of those up just to remind you. This just happens to be the business matrix. I don't know if it's still current, but this was from 2010. And what do you see? All the courses are not there, but all the program outcomes, they only have 5, and all the check marks are there. So what do you see? It's kind of an uneven distribution of how the outcomes are addressed. 1 and 5 are heavily addressed. 2, only one course is program outcome number 2. And then program outcome 3 is only 2 courses help address program outcome number 3. Program outcome number 4 is a little bit better. Okay. So what would be your recommendation? It's sort of hard if you don't know what the program outcomes are, but 1 and 2 talk about accounting procedures that you learn in the business administration program. I'm not sure about 3 and 4. My main concern is what happens with program outcome number 2, because it's only addressed once. So is it truly important because it's only addressed once? Could it be combined with program outcome number 1 and 1 being more general, because it talks about accounting procedures? teachers. I don't know, that would be up to the business faculty to take a look at that and decide what they want to do that might be different. So this is just an example of one that might need some changes. I haven't looked at the others for a really long time, but they could be the same. So I started trying to put one together for the education division because we've done all of this, and it looks like almost everything has box checks in it. So they probably did a pretty good job. All of the program outcomes and even the institution level outcomes. So once you design your course, fitting in with your program outcomes, you also need to take a look at how they match up with the institution level outcomes. Are you addressing all of those? And I didn't do a grid for that one, but it could be similar to the program alignment grid. But these are your 8 institution level outcomes, real general. There's more explanation with that. These are taken from the ACC&U value rubrics. And we chose to do these 8. There's more than 8 value rubrics, but we felt that these 8 fit with our institution. So somewhere in the program you have to teach critical thinking skills. Somewhere in the program you have to talk about intercultural knowledge and competence as being one of the courses somewhere. And I think when we take a look at the course outline format, you'll see that it's identified in the course outline format. First you have to decide, take a look at your entire program, decide which courses are going to meet which learning outcomes and how you're going to design those courses to do that. So first of all, you need to take a look at the big picture of your program. And like I said, the Education Division did this. They started actually with the end course at that time, which was the practicum in the 3rd year. And they worked backwards because that practicum is the culminating course that addresses all of the learning outcomes in the 3rd year program and this AA program. So in order for students to be successful in that end course, what did they have to learn on the way there? So that's what you all need to think about this morning. You have, most courses have, or most programs have a field studies, or they have a final course where the students have to demonstrate most of their learning outcomes. So how do you make sure that they have enough learning opportunities along the way to be successful in that last course? And that's my final question for this morning, or for now, because I'd like you to meet with your program faculty to address that question. To talk about your program as it is now and what you think you might like to change, because this is your opportunity right now to make those changes. To change a lot, it requires a substantive change if you change more than 50% of your program. Okay, if you change credits in your program, then we take it to the board. If you're changing less than that, then it goes through curriculum committee. So, does anyone have any questions? Yes.
We have a minimum of how many programs learning outcomes should course cover, or is that up to the program?
It's up to the program. I'm not going to tell you how many.
There's no minimum. Even at the institution level, like if we cover one of the learning outcomes under institution, I think one course is that enough, or it's up to us. There's no minimum time.
It's up to you to decide, because it's your program, so you decide how you want students to learn in that program. Hopefully, if one course is addressing only one institution level learning outcomes, there's multiple opportunities. I guess I should say this, that when you write a course outline, you're going to select one assessment in that course outline to address an institution level outcome. So each course has one assessment to address one institution level outcome. Okay, so but you may have two courses that address the same institution level outcome. So right now, I just want you to take time to think back and share with your program faculty how your program is now. If you're going to choose one program or one course to revise today, you might talk about that course and how it fits into the program, and where you might address other issues as you move along. This is just a beginning discussion because it took the education faculty, I laughed because I basically locked them in a room for 4 days. And they had done a lot of preliminary work already on looking at alignment in their program. So it was a long process. It wasn't something that happened in an hour. So, but I'm going to give you maybe 45 minutes, and we'll see how it goes to start talking about your program and program alignment within your program and your courses. And if you have questions, the education faculty are here to help you out. I can help you, Maria can help you.
On the matrix for the institutional learning outcomes, are we just focusing on our core programs, or do we have to include the general education courses?
Focus on your core.
Because it's clearly shown the other general education courses, so, you know, like what to make sure that we cover those areas. That should be consideration.
He asked about should we include the general education in consideration of meeting the learning institution level learning outcomes. General education is assessed separately as a separate program for your information. It has its own assessment. So each program should still meet the institution level learning outcomes. Okay. Any other questions before you meet with your faculty and talk about alignment within your program and intentional planning, intentional design, of course. No questions?
One course can also address
It can, but you're going to choose only one assessment in each course to actually assess the institution level outcome. We're trying to simplify assessment in this process. I do have one introduction to make, since we're sort of in between here. Our new Vice President for Institutional Effectiveness and Quality Assurance started her first day today. This is Caroline Cosell. She's taking a tour right now, and make her feel welcome. Okay, I hope each of you had some interesting discussions at your table. I heard some very interesting questions as I was going around to some of the different tables. And I know it's not enough time to finish working on aligning the program, but I hope you got a good start. And as you move along in this process, please remember that Maria, Taylor, and June and I are available to come and sit with you to help you move along in this process. If you want us to do that. Or more than willing, just let us know so we can arrange times to have further conversations. So, I have another question, or a couple of questions for you before we move into the course outline process. So, I have another coffee mug to give away. Are you ready? Raise your hand if you know the answer to this question. Right? Mark, you don't have an answer? Right? Yes, a yardstick. Okay, you guys need to practice your riddles. I have another question. And I have a nice t-shirt. These are designed by Luciano, our own Luciano. It's a large. Nice design. Okay, get ready. Here's your question. What question can you never answer yes to? Sylvia. That was Timmy's question. That wasn't quite the one I was looking for, but if I can't get another answer, then I'll give Timmy the t-shirt, because you said that first. George.
Are you sleeping?
Yes. Are you sleeping? Maybe I'll give you a t-shirt. For now, we're ready to move on to what it looks like to write a course outline. The process is probably really small. This information is in the curriculum handbook, and I took it off the one that's online now. There'll be a revised version going up soon, but this information does not change in the revised version. Okay? So, faculty are the authors of the course outline. It's the program faculty who determine the information that goes in and the preparation of that outline. So, most of your outlines at this point are going to be revisions. So they need a course modification form, which I'm going to show you and talk about the information that goes in that form. And it's good to submit that form along with the revised outline and the old outline one time. And it says it goes to the instructional coordinator. Because the instructional coordinator is going to review that information to make sure everything is as it should be before it goes to the curriculum committee. Because once the curriculum committee gets the outline, they should be able to do a quick review of it and hopefully approve it, because all the work on the course outline is done before it even goes to the IC. Okay, the IC is just doing a check. Okay, once IC reviews it, he submits the course outline to the curriculum committee. Okay. Says if it's permitted at this point, all revisions are going to be permitted because all the outlines are outdated. So they all need to be revised. Okay. So the CC is going to review the new or revised course outline. And once they recommend it for approval, it comes to me for review, and then I sign off on it, yes or no. And if I say yes, then I give it back, and I inform Maria, and she informs the committee, and we post it on the website. Okay? And information goes back to the authors if the outlines are finished. If anyone along the way says the course outline is not ready, like the IC, the curriculum committee, or myself, then it goes back to the author. which is all of you. So it could be at any one point along the way, and then it goes back. Okay? So it's, yes, sir. Okay, the Dean of Academic Programs is the ex officio member of the Curriculum Committee. Her role is to facilitate the process to make sure that it goes along smoothly. So if the IC has questions about the course outline, then he can ask that person, maybe a she, they're all right now. The IC can ask the Dean of Academic Programs if she feels that that course outline is ready for curriculum review. Because if they actually, when you submit to the curriculum committee, it goes, am I right, please? It goes through you first before it goes to curriculum committee.
Is that in the process right now?
It's not there. It's not there. It's not up there, but that's the practice, that it goes to her before it goes to curriculum committee. So we're trying to do these quality checks on the course outlines before they get to curriculum committee. Because curriculum committee should be able to look at that outline one time and say it's ready for approval. The curriculum committee's job is not to critique the outline. It's just to make sure that it meets all the requirements and what have you, because they're not experts in the field of study. It's you all that are the experts. So it's your job to make sure the outline is well done before it even gets to curriculum committee. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Sometimes it's with some changes. What are the steps that need to be taken and reflected in the process to ensure that those changes are made in the final?
Maria, do you want to address that one? The question was, if an outline goes to curriculum committee and it's approved with modification or a few changes, there might be a numbering, it might be an editing change or something very minor that doesn't require an author's input.
I do want to also agree that for minor changes like that, it doesn't have to go back to the other to save time. And we'll make the changes, it's the curriculum committee chair before he, put his signature on it, yeah.
Because the curriculum committee chair signs all course outlines, that person is responsible to make sure the changes get made. Okay. And then Maria will double check before she posts. James. Okay, would the curriculum committee members please rise? I know you're in this room because it's all faculty. Mark is the chair. Eddie. This is Stevie Ann, Sue Moses, Cindy Edwin, Deborah Berman, Gardner Edgar, Danny, Marlene Castellano is the vice chair. Barbie, my brain is still on vacation. And Maria. Yeah, Mark. Mark is the chair this year. So those are your curriculum committee people. They meet twice a month on Mondays at 1 o'clock. Okay? Any other questions right now? So I'm going to talk about the format for the course outline and the course modification form, because those are the two forms that you'll be working with. These, like I said, are in the curriculum handbook that's online, and they're in date won't change in the revised version that goes up soon. Okay, so they're on our website under publications. If you go to publications, look for manuals and handbooks, and it's labeled CAC handbook right now, but it's actually going to have a new title, which is this curriculum committee handbook. The format is on page 13 through 15. There's a checklist to use to make sure you've done everything necessary to do a course outline. And like I said, Education Division has already done this process, so the outlines posted on the website under Education are all new. They've all been revised. They were finished just recently, but they were all redone for the bachelor's program. So those are examples that you can use if you need to see one that's already been completed. They're not all up yet, soon, because some of them were just approved. It may have got caught up in the holiday. So now I'm going to go through the format of a course outline. Like I said, these are in the handbook, so you can use them. This is the cover page, which contains the basic information about the course. So in the first section here, you just put your course number and title. That's easy, because they're already there. The campus where the course originated from. So if it originates from CTEP or National Campus, that's the campus. The initiator, the primary author's name goes there, and the date. And then your course description. The course description shouldn't be terribly long, but it should give a student the idea of what they will be doing and learning in this course. So what the course is about. You can look at the descriptions that are already written and decide, maybe even sit down as program faculty to decide if you need to change the descriptions or if they still are relevant, depending on what you're going to do with your program. The next section, course hours and credits, determines how often the course should meet and how many credit hours. So if it's just basically a lecture course, they usually meet 3 hours per week times 16 weeks. So then that divided by 16 gives you 3 semester credits. Looks like there's a comma missing. Is there? 3 times 16 equals 48 divided by 16 equals 3. There. Make sense? Okay. So if it's a laboratory, it meets again 3 hours per week for 16 weeks, but the total hours is 48, so it's only 1 credit. Because 48 divided by 48 is 1. Because science lab hours are 3 to 1. Okay? Then we have such thing called a lecture lab, because some courses, it's you do a lot of hands-on activities in the course and a little bit of lecture, but it's sort of like the CTEP courses. Again, the divisor is 16. If it's a workshop, then your divisor is 48. This is what we have right now. What's the purpose of the course? Is it a degree requirement? A degree elective, because some programs have elective courses in there. Is it for a certificate or is it there for another reason? Does the course have any prerequisites? Do you have to take another course before you can take this course? So like EN 120B, which is expository writing 2, you have to take EN 120A first and get at least a C. So that's kind of information that goes into the prerequisites. Okay, so the next section, does the course meet which program learning outcomes? Okay, does it meet program learning outcomes of other programs? I can think of one example, which is ethnobotany. It's a gen ed requirement. It fulfills the science without a lab requirement, but it also is a requirement under the agriculture program. So it meets program learning outcomes of 2 different programs. So you would list those other ones there. Okay. Maybe another example is MS 150 statistics, because it's a requirement for several different programs. So you have to list those other program learning outcomes that course meets, because it's going to be assessed in each of those programs. And then it has a place for signatures. So that's just the cover page. Any questions there? Just basic information. Okay. Here are those 8 institution student learning outcomes. You're going to put an X in next to the ones that this course addresses. It could be 1, it could be more than 1. So if you're going to teach, if you have the students doing any oral presentations in that course, then you would check box 1, because we're looking at effective oral communication. Okay, if they have to do writing in your course, then you can also check the second one, because it's effective written communication. Okay. If you're teaching critical thinking skills, and I'm going to emphasize that, teaching critical thinking skills, and you can check that box, because don't assume that it happens. Don't assume that students are just doing critical thinking, because they may not know how, or they've never been taught in a way where they actually have to do critical thinking. I'm going to pick on the social science division, because they did this in assessment for the Micronesian Studies program. They kept saying that the students writing their final papers had a hard time with analysis. So I asked them, I said, so where are you guys teaching the skills of analysis within the program? They're like, oh, we just assumed that it was happening with some of the other assignments. So they found out that they weren't really teaching it. So they changed their courses, and they started actually teaching how to do analysis of data and information. There was an improvement? Yes. So when they redid assessment, they found out there was an improvement in that area. Okay. Any questions about institution learning outcomes? You're going to check the ones that course teaches to. George.
How would we know if we need to improve one of the IL goals? Let's say, in my B101, when I wrote my course outline, since I have business planning, then the reader from CAC or CC, you name yourself, CC, asked me to include ISLO 2, effective written communication. But when I was reading the definition of effective written communication, it's like too much for a business plan.
But they're having to do some type of writing, yes?
Yes. So,
Utilizing different writing technologies and a different particular style, or teaching a particular style of writing.
no.
A business plan requires a particular style of writing. It's different than writing an essay. It's different than writing lab report for a science class.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so you're teaching a style of writing. So that means they have to be to effective written communication. If that don't, then that business plan won't be accepted, right? Does that make sense?
But for me,
Don't think that writing is just writing an essay for Expos 1 or Expos 2. Writing is a lot of different kinds of things.
but anyway, I can't say